Hello and welcome to Greeting with Google. In this lesson, we're going to be focused on creating a Google form to use as a rubric. There will be a second part to this lesson of taking that rubric and turning it into a neatly formatted Google Sheets page that you can then distribute to your students and utilize in parent conferences and other things like that. First, I'd like to show you what our end goal is. So this is our end goal. This is a rubric that has been completed. It already has all the information in it based on what's been filled out in a Google form. It comes out not neat like this, but it's what we're going to work towards so that we can organize it for our classroom, have our students' names, pull up information based on what our students are doing. All of this is going to come from a form similar to this one. I'm going to walk you through creating a form that will allow you to easily input information, notes, feedback for your students while they are presenting or you are reviewing projects. This is something that is digital, meaning you no longer have to take things with you. Best part ever. So we're going to be looking at different types of questions in our Google Forms. You can see here I have multiple choice, I have short answer. Sorry, I have check boxes, which allow me to select more than one item. More multiple choice. I have a linear scale that I have aligned with my rubric. I'll show you my rubric shortly. For my students, so they know that a 1 means they didn't do what I asked them to, and a 5 means they did everything and went a little above and beyond. Again, short answer for comments. Multiple choice, a lot of multiple choice here because it made it easy for me to create conditional formatting. You can see here, if I click, I have conditional formatting that allows it to continue to the next section, or it'll skip the section because they didn't submit a GIF. I can't grade what they didn't submit. So we'll be creating sections, like section 9 of 12 here is animated GIF. And the sections are named based on what I've titled them here. So all of this is created through separate sections, leaves place for comments by me, what students need to improve on, what they can work on, what they've done well, if they're allowed to do makeup work or not, depending on when the item was turned in. Okay, so we are going to start in Google Drive. You can see here I've navigated to a folder specific to my assignment. We're working on a campaign. It's called Stop the Spread. It's a public service announcement. My guidelines are here. This is what I gave to my students. It tells them due dates, what is expected, when they have to have it in, Q&A that has to be a part of it, the actual product they are producing, and those requirements. So again, in my Google Drive, I have my folder already created. You can organize however you like. We're going to be creating a new form. So there's two ways to do that. One is using this blue button here that says New, going to More and Google Forms. You can also right-click inside your folder, go to More and Google Forms. Now I'm creating this in a shared folder. I've shared it with my grade level team because we're working on this all together. So they will be receiving this and be able to see and edit this form. I'm going to go ahead and create and share. If you do not want something shared with people, make sure that you are not putting it inside a shared folder. Now what this does is it opens a new tab for me with my new form. It's untitled, has no information in it yet. So the first thing that I want to do is make sure that I title my form. I just need to keep things organized. So we're going to call this Stop the Spread Rubric. And once I have this title filled in, I'm going to go ahead and click up here for the name of my form and it'll autofill for me. This is what will show up in my Google Drive. So if you leave that as untitled, it'll remain untitled until you update it. I can also add a description. So like I've shared this with other teachers, so I'm going to add a description of rubric for final projects filled by Evolvus only. I'm responsible for this portion of the rubric. Other teachers are grading other portions. I'm grading the overall theme and quality of work. So this rubric is for me and me only. Sometimes I will create rubrics that I will then send out to other teachers because I want their feedback. Sometimes rubrics will be used for peer feedback in my classroom. So if I have students filling it out, of course I collect their information so I know who filled out the rubric and is grading another student. Also, that way I can hold them accountable if they were to say something not nice or inappropriate. That has actually never been a problem, thankfully, but still something I want to make sure I do. So if you were sharing it with students, you would want to use your settings up here to collect email addresses so that your students have to log in as a part of Northeast ISD. And that's under your settings, so you can control what they're doing. In this case, since it's just me doing this, I won't be giving it to anybody else. I'm not worried about that. All right, so again, like I said, this is for a project in my classes. I have a web design class, which is working on this large project. So I teach the same class 5 times. So one of my first questions is going to be class period, because I want to be able to keep everything organized when I am distributing items back to my class. And I like to use the radial buttons, so just a multiple choice option, because I can only choose one answer for this question. So my first class starts 3rd period. I teach a different class, 1st and 2nd period, but 3rd period, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. I teach the same class. So those are going to be my options. This way I can keep it organized again. Like I said, so when I'm distributing my rubrics, I know, oh, all these kids are in this period. I need to distribute this stack. I'm also going to make sure that I select the required option down here. This way I can't skip a question. That's really all it comes down to. It's not that, oh, it's going to hurt if I don't. It just keeps me on top of things so I don't skip anything. For this project, my students were working in teams, so I will include a new question that is group leader name. Actually they voted on group leaders. And Google's real smart. It knows that my information is going to be most likely typed in, so it changes to a short answer option. If I wanted to autofill if I wanted to pre-fill all my students' names, I could do a drop down or something like that. But really a short answer is going to be the best option here for me. So I'm going to keep what Google put in. I've got my group leader name. Again, I'm going to make it required because I don't want to skip it. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the other 2 group members as required. And then there was an option for a 3rd group member, so 4 group members total for some of my classes that had uneven numbers. So I'm going to hit duplicate down here. I don't know why it keeps doing that. I'm going to duplicate. And you'll see here it says group leader name. Oh, it's on there twice now. Okay, it says group leader name. So I'm going to change this first one, group leader name, to group member 2. I'm going to spell group correctly. Group member 2. It's still a short answer. It kept the required box for me, so it's cool. So this one, again, I'm going to do group member 3. Still short answer, still required. I'm going to duplicate this one more time, but instead of having group member 4 as a required, since not all of my classes will have 4, or not all of my teams will have 4 group members, I'm going to take off that required option. And that's just something that when I get to a group that has 4 people, I'll have to make sure I put that 4th person in. So that covers my class period, my group members, and then one of the last things I need from them is their project subject. So this is something that I actually had my students complete for me when we started the project. So I have all of this already in a document. I actually used a form to collect this information as they were choosing their teams and their project. I hit required there because I want to make sure I fill that out, especially if I need to have a conversation with a parent because a student didn't turn something in or they didn't complete the assignment. I want to be able to have all of the information for that parent. So project subject, required, and then we're ready to start looking at what was being graded. So I had them do a display board. It was required for all students, so that's going to be my next question. The display board was required for each group, And I'm just going to put, did they complete it? I can't grade it if they didn't complete it. So I'm going to change this from short answer to a multiple choice. And it's going to be yes, on time. You know, I mean, on time is important. Yes, late. Or no. And if they didn't do it, I can't grade it. So I'm going to come back up here later and put in some conditional formatting. I will show that to you in just a moment. And I'm going to make that required. So this is the end of my first section. So the one I showed you here, you would be looking at this very first section, PBL project grades, and it ends right here after completed display board. And this is the conditional formatting I'm talking about. Go to section 2, go to section 2, go to section 3. Because they didn't turn it in, I can't grade it. So we're going to come back here. We're going to add our next section. Okay, so we have, now it says section 2 of 2. And this is going to be our display board section. So within the display board section, I would be grading the requirements for the display board. One of the first things I do is I take a picture of the display board, so I have evidence of what was submitted the day of. So I'm going to do a file upload. And then I can control this. It doesn't matter if I'm the one doing it. I'm going to upload an image. I'm only going to upload one. I'm going to put display board photo. And it'll let me add a file. This way I have the file with me when I'm ready to grade. Maybe I don't grade it right away. I'm going to take it home, do it over the weekend. However it may be, I have it here on my Google Drive available for me to see and work on, since everything else is digital as well. Again, this will be a required item. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my next question. Now for this next question, I am listing everything that was included. Now, remember on their criteria, it talks about the things they have to have. So I'm going to include those items under my includes here, but I'm going to include it as checkboxes because maybe they didn't include something and I need to be able to take points off for that. So they have to have a title, table, graph, why it's a problem. And after each one of these, I'm hitting enter and it lets me go ahead and add my next option without having to click on the next line. So it makes things run a little smoother. How PSA will fix it. Billboard. Flyer, brochure, and theme. Colors, fonts, consistency. So we're looking at each of these being something that was required. If they get them all checked off, they'll have all their points. If they don't get them all checked off, then they will not receive all of their points. They'll lose points based on the qualifications in the rubric. So I'm going to go ahead and add my next question. In my next question is going to be comments. This is a place for me to give my students information back about what they've done. If they have time to redo something, they can use this information to redo that section. So Google, again, smart, gonna give me a paragraph there. I'm gonna require it so that I don't forget to put comments in. Now from here, I am ready to add my third section. This third section is going to be for the next portion of the grade. And in this case, we're going to be looking at, did they create a website? So I'm going to go ahead and click Add Section. And I'm going to call this section Website. Again, I can put a description if I want to. Sometimes I will copy and paste the requirements from the rubric in here. Sometimes I don't. This time I'm not going to because the students already received a hard copy and a digital copy of the rubric, so I don't see the point in beating a dead horse with the information. Now, under this, the first part that we're going to be looking at is, did they complete a website? Because I don't want to, I'm not going to waste time grading something if they didn't complete it. So I'm going to add a question. Completed website. Again, I'm going to leave it as multiple choice. And you can see here even, Google gives you some suggestions here. So I'm just going to hit yes, no, let that be that. Hit required so that I have to answer it, and then I'm going to move on. Now then, this actually takes me into what would be a next section because I'm going to make these conditional. If they completed a website, then I'm going to hit yes. It's going to take me to another section, which would be section 4. If they did not complete a website, I'm going to hit no, and it's going to jump me over section 4 to section 5, which is the next section for grading. Now, if you remember in my criteria, they didn't have to create a website. They had a choice between a website and a TV commercial, just like they had a choice between a billboard, an animated GIF, and a flyer. So they're not necessarily losing points if they didn't do this. That's something I would have already had the conversation with them about. They would understand their points before this starts going out. This is my final rubric, my portion for me to grade with, not something I'm going to hand the students. Okay, so again, I'm going to go ahead and go to my 4th section now, and it's going to be website information, because this is going to be where I fill out, did they do everything that they were supposed to with their website. So website information, again, I can put a description if I want to. Going to add my question. First question always, submitted on time. Okay, it's question mark. And then we're going to do multiple choice. It's very simple, yes or no. It's required. Obviously, they're going to be docked points if it wasn't submitted on time. So I'm going to go ahead and add another question. Theme. A big portion of this was for them to understand keeping a consistent theme throughout their campaign and how a campaign works. So we even brought in the art teacher to discuss campaigns and how themes work across multiple platforms. So we're going to be looking at a linear scale on this. It's going to be a 1 to 5, 1 being no, you didn't even get close, and 5 meaning, yep, you got it, it's perfect, you were on target the entire time, everything is the same along your theme. So again, we're just doing 1 to 5. You can change this up to 10 depending on how you want to label things. I always put in a label here. 1 is my low, so it's going to be none. It did not stick to the theme. And then 5 is my consistent. And it stuck with a consistent theme. So again, I'm going to hit required down here at the bottom because I have to answer it. And then I'm going to give them comments about their website. Now, depending on what you are grading and what you were doing, you may have added some other things that had to be a part of this. Maybe they had to create a website and it had to be 5 pages long and it had to have this and it had to have that. Well, you would include additional questions, theme, number of pages, and so on and so forth for whatever your requirements are. In this case, I'm looking at the overall overarching consistency and theme to this project. So in this case, I'm not going through and holding them accountable for having 10 interesting facts or 2 graphs on their info page and things like that. That's the math teacher or the history teacher. This is a big project that's cross-curricular, so everyone's taking care of different portions. They'll all receive grades in all of our classes for the work they've done, but each teacher has taken on a different responsibility. So again, this last part, I'm just going to add comments. Again, it's going to change it to paragraph for me. I'm going to hit required. That's the end of that section. Add another section. This section is going to look at their commercial. Now this is going to be the last portion that I do with you. because I feel like you kind of will understand it at this point. It's commercial. Gonna add my question. Did they turn it in? Yes, no. Yes, no. Required. Again, just like with the website, I'm gonna at this point add another section because they didn't do a commercial. I don't need to go through the grading section of the commercial. So I'm going to do the commercial information, and then I'm going to show you how to add the conditional formatting to these questions. So untitled section, we're going to call it commercial information, just like with the website. You'll notice it kind of becomes a little redundant while you're doing this. That's okay. Once you have this set up, you have it forever. When I do this project again next year, I'm just going to copy my rubric from this year and update any little things, but I will not be recreating this rubric again. It'll just be little tweaks here and there if necessary. I actually probably will not even be making any tweaks to it. Last year everyone was very happy with the rubrics and the way they received their feedback. So again, we're looking at theme. We're going to do our linear scale. And as I said before, if you had other requirements, you would add those in as additional questions. But since this was being graded by all the teachers and we're all looking for different things, we left that up to each person to do. So now, I have 6 different sections, section 6 of 6. So I'm going to come back up here to section 1. And the very first thing we're looking at is, did they complete their display board? Yes, they completed it. Yes, it was late. Or no, they didn't complete it at all. I'm going to come down to the 3 dots down here. And you can see here it says description or go to section based on answer. And this is what I'm looking for. Go to section based on answer. So, yes, on time, continue to next section. Well, next section is the display board section. Yes, late, continue to next section. Or no, I'm going to skip the display board and go straight to website because I already know they're going to receive zeros for all of this information. Okay. Now, if you're just going to continue to go in a linear fashion, so in this point, I'm going from display board to website. Okay. I don't need to do anything with this one. It's already going to continue to the next section naturally. But I do want to look at here, completed website, yes, no. Well, yes, they completed it. I'm going to continue to the next section. If they didn't complete it, I want to skip it because I don't want to mess with that. So I'm going to come down to these 3 dots again. Go to section based on answer. Yes is going to continue me to the next section. That's what I want. No is going to jump me past the website information section and take me straight to the commercial. Again, website information, it's all already there. It knows that when I'm done here, my next thing is to look at the commercial. Now, there are some teams that took it upon themselves to do the website and the commercial. They were looking for extra credit, and if they did a successful job, then they received that extra credit. So there is a chance that if a team did the website, they also did a commercial. So we're going to be looking at here. Same thing, completed commercial, yes or no. Go to section based on answer. If it was a yes, it's going to continue to the next section, which is the commercial information. If it was no, we're going to go to submit form because that is my last bit of information. And like I said, this is for me. My students will see it when we're done, but they will not be seeing the actual form. They will only be seeing the questions and answers and feedback. So now if you want to see what your form is going to look like so that you're ready to fill it out, you go ahead and hit this little I up here and it takes you to the preview. And you can see here it has all the information I've gone through. Group members, project, complete display board. And you can see it doesn't show the next section because it's waiting for me to give some information. So you can try out your form here. Just put in information, 3rd period, group leader name. Just making things up here. Alright, and their subject was colds. They completed their display board on time. I hit next. Okay, I can take my picture, add my file of my display board. I'm going to hit add file. I come to my computer, add my picture. In this case, we're just going to add a picture so that there's a picture there. I don't have a display board picture with me right now. So it's there. I'll be able to view it when I'm ready to actually put grades in. While I'm looking at that picture, I can see it has a title, has a table and a graph, it has why it's a problem, who it affects, how the PSA will fix it. It doesn't have a billboard, but that may be that they chose not to do a billboard. They chose to do the flyer, brochure, and an animated GIF, and then the theme. So I'll have to come back and look at what that group said they were going to do. And then I can add comments. Helps if I spell things correctly because the students will see it. Billboard is eye-catching. I need you to go back and check some spelling before final presentations. So my students had to turn this into me a week before our final presentations because we were having a gallery walk where people from the community were coming in. So they submitted this. I went through, we did spell check, we did everything, grammar, punctuation, went through and made sure everything looked perfect. So I left comments like this for them throughout their entire project. So again, I hit next. Completed website. Let's go ahead and say they did. Submitted on time. Theme, they kept it pretty close. Maybe their green was a little off or something didn't go along. I would like to see you update your color scheme to match your display board. Please check spelling. If I noticed one word that was regularly misspelled, I would tell them which one. Now in this case, I'm going to say, they did the website, but they didn't do the commercial. Wasn't required. Okay, I'm going to hit no, next, and it's going to go ahead and ask me, are you sure you want to submit this rubric? I hit submit, and I am good. So now if I come back to our rubric, you can see that there is a response. That's the response I just put in. You can view the response right here inside the form. Take a look at all of it. Okay, all that was answered. As you have more responses, these things become more distributed. And that's fine. You can look at the summary. That's the whole, every answer that's been given, or you can look at it as an individual, and it's going to go through and let you see each individual item that was put in. Do it that way. Also, and the part that we'll be using is right here where we turn it into a spreadsheet. So that's going to be that next video that we're going to. I hope that you are able to grasp how these forms are made and how they interact, and the ease that it will bring once you have the initial form created. It makes things so easy. So see you in the next video, and we will be creating the nice, pretty looking project rubric like this one here.